Hey Rush fans, welcome once again to another edition of RTP Behind the Scenes. This is Bill Heck from the Rush Tribute Project. Today I'm going to talk to you about, this is going to be another Fractal Axe Effects tutorial. This one kind of came up sort of unplanned, but I was actually working on some different things, including off of Counterparts, Stick It Out, second song off of Counterparts. And when I first heard that song back right after it came out, the first thing that kind of hit me was just that wall of sound, how it changed from what you heard on Hold Your Fire and Presto and Roll the Bones. All of a sudden it was just so in your face. And I think that's why a lot of people really like that Counterparts album. You know, it sort of took them back to their roots, you know, to the root of when they first started. The other thing I noticed was kind of the addition of that real amp sound, including feedback. Listen to Stick It Out. Listen to the very first part of Stick It Out, and you actually hear feedback. You really get a feeling for a lot of volume in the recording studio. Would have loved to have been there behind the scenes for that, but it was pretty evident that at the time, you know, something major had changed with the way Alex was building his sounds. You know, everything just sounded raw. It was different. It was, well, like I said, back to the roots. So, "Stick It Out" is one of those songs that we tried it way back. Didn't get much of a response to it, and since we've actually brought it back and been doing it a little bit more and more. One of the things, though, that only seems to be missing is that not the real amp sound, because the Fractal Axe Effects really does give that to you, and is an incredible modeler. But the feedback, you know, that huge, you know, amp behind you kind of sound, you know, that you hear on that album. And so I was thinking to myself, like, you know, there's got to be a way to do it. You know, one way would be kind of get the Doc Brown, Marty McFly giant amplifier like in Back to the Future. The other would be a wall of Marshalls, or at the very minimum, when playing live, have some sort of amplification on stage. But one of the things that we do with RTP is both Sean and I are using Axe Effects 3s. I'm actually using a FM3, Fractal FM3, for the sake of this demo, which is used in a lot of the same ways. Slightly less power, but definitely powerful enough to get through a show. But one of the things we do is we do not bring amplifiers on stage. Everything is using in-ears, which Ted, our incredible sound man, I think loves the fact that we don't have amps on stage. It adds a level of complexity, kind of depending on where you're sitting in the venue. If you're in the front row, you're gonna hear lots of amps. If you're sitting halfway back or more towards the back, you're gonna hear more things coming out of the PA. So we made a decision a while back to just let's go direct. The technology's there. Let's make an effort. Let's go direct. But as I said, one of the things that's missing is that feedback, the natural feedback. And I know some people will use floor wedges to get that, or amps on stage, you know, maybe over on the side, maybe not necessarily behind, but just for the sake of actually building feedback. But since we had decided not to bring any amps on stage, really for reasons of keeping the mix nice and even throughout the entire venue, the fact that we're old and we don't feel like lugging heavy amps around, that's definitely a big part of it. So we kind of have an issue here where, yeah, the amp sound, you know, the Fractal will do a great job of emulating sounds. We're really happy with that, but where are we going to get this feedback from? So what I've got here on my screen is, as I said, this is the Fractal FM3. I dialed up a Soldano lead tone. It's something I use, actually not too often, but it's using the Solo 99 lead bright. This is a very active sounding amp. Tons of gain, tons of sustain, but as I had said, no feedback. But so you listen to the very beginning of Stick It Out. It's like know the song really well, you know what I'm talking about, where on that note especially, there's a built-up feedback, and without having that on the stage, it's pretty hard to do. You can, there are a few ways that you can actually do that without using amps on the stage. One is to add a drive block before the amplifier, which I don't have here. I actually have a couple cases, the very end of 2112, for instance, where I actually use two drive blocks just to get a ton of sustain, and then a built-up feedback. The problem, two things, like with Stick It Out. Number one, it's a very specific note. The note that's missing is actually an F sharp, way up here. And feedback can be pretty unpredictable. It can make a difference on, you know, what the stage looks like, where the PA cabinets are facing, where they are, where you're standing, which way you're facing on the stage. All this makes a huge difference as far as what note you actually get, what type of feedback, what note you might get. Are you going to get a fifth? Are you going to get an octave? Who knows? So I made an effort to, I'm going to dive into this and see if there's a way to basically fake it. But I didn't want it to sound fake. So I did some research, and the Fractal XFX forum, which is a great resource. There are other people talking, not specifically about Stick It Out or about Rush, but about building feedback. And what I was reading was the addition of the synth block shown here, kind of highlighted here, is actually a good way to do it. So I started playing around a little bit with it. Synth block is something I've never really used that much because I just couldn't ever find a really good way to use it for something that I wanted to do, or something that didn't sound really cheesy. If I put it in line here, and let's just say put it to sawtooth, mix 100%, yeah, it's going to be... So, single note at a time sounds very keyboardish, as it should, because it's a synth block. Definitely not what I was after. So, messing with the different types, you've got triangle, you've got sine, sawtooth, random, you get some different noise generators. I'm not entirely sure the purpose why you'd want to use those, but I'm sure there's some reason. But triangle is not as harsh, but still not really a usable sound or anything that I really want to use in this case. So first of all, to start, one of the things that I've been doing, you can see with my multi-delay block, that I've got it running in parallel. This actually gives me the ability to use the level, like put the mix at 100% and then use the level to kind of blend between a direct sound and sound going through. And I'm going to do that. I'm basically going to do the same thing. This is more personal preference. I need to get rid of these lines here. But here, this right here, the synth block is by itself, so nothing's going to happen. But so no feedback. That's kind of the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from here, and I'm going to build up this little parallel path here to like that. So now, and if I go to here, turn up the level, I can use that level to blend between the guitar signal and the synth signal. Kind of hard to tell the difference because the shift right here is set at 0, which means it's basically replicating the same note. What I want to do in this case, as I said, with Stick It Out, here we go, bypassing that note here. And by the way, I'm drop tuned for anybody that might be confused by the. So I'm using drop D. So this note, what I want to get is that note as feedback. So I'm going to turn on the synth block. I'm going to put the level somewhere around here. Crank up the shift. that's about the level that I want, but that's actually still 1 octave lower than I want, and I'm already maxed at 24. So what I'm going to do is go back into my blocks here, and if I can find it, here we go, pitch block. If I throw pitch in front of that and set it to, here, I'll start it with 0 just so you can. That's actually the note that I want. But I don't want it right away, because that just sounds rather horrible. So that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm going to do, though, is pitch should be on smooth. I want to use that level to bring up and basically simulate the feedback. So what I'm going to do is go in to level, and I've got a pedal on the floor, which I'll show a separate picture of. And I can basically, the problem with that is it's almost kind of on or off, and it doesn't really sound like feedback. So what I'm going to do is a couple things. Number one, I'm actually going to take this, and this is only because I was messing with it before, and I found this worked a little better. I want to peak right around 15 dB. I don't want it to go any higher than that, but the attack, this is really key here. I want this around 2 seconds, or 2000 milliseconds. And then the release, I want to do quicker than that, but not necessarily instantaneous. So if I put those like that, now when I step on the pedal all the way down, you could see it builds its way up. It doesn't just shoot right to the top. So now using a pitch block and a synth block, and one other thing, I want to make sure that I set this to mute effects out. So that way that pitch block isn't going to have any effect if the volume on the synth is down, which it is, which you can see right here. So now I'm to the point where okay, I actually released the pedal and it didn't release quick enough, so I'm going to change that real quick. Let's drop this down to around here. So when it builds up, so I release the pedal, it releases faster than that. Try it one more time. So now I've got what really sounds like a pretty decent feedback simulator. And part of the reason too is I'm using that triangle wave, which still sounds very keyboardish, but it's going through my amp block now because of where I've got it sitting. It's going through the amp, through the cabinet, through the chorus, through the multi-delay. So in a sense, it's almost like another guitar signal. So there you go. Fake feedback. Well, thanks for joining. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. The button's down there somewhere. So please subscribe. Leave your comments in the field if you got any questions or if there is anything else you want to see on Rush Tribute Project behind the scenes. We'll be glad to create a video and dive into it with you. So thanks a lot for joining. Appreciate it.